If you knew that you would be dying shortly and you didn't want your family to know, would you clone yourself? If that clone would be a perfect copy of you to save your family from grief. We got to talk about Swan Song, the movie featuring Mahershala Ali, which I think was a good movie. I want to talk about the movie just a bit, but more so the larger questions that I had. Not necessarily about the movie, but I would say at the end of the movie or afterwards. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, what's up? If you are not, welcome back. I'm happy to see you. I wanted to talk about Swan Song, the movie featuring Mahershala Ali, which speaks of love and sacrifice. To me, had much deeper questions and so many places to explore and so much that I would love to talk about, but it's a lot, and I may just have an accompanying podcast with it where I talk in depth more. But the movie was, to me, was an interesting one. Let's get the superficials out of the way first. Mahershala and Naomi Harris were excellent looking in the movie. They were just an excellent couple. And Mahershala, with just the face, everything, he's a great actor. He acts well. His entire face knows how to act. He's just an excellent actor. I had to get that out of the way. I mean, down to the way that they met in the movie was beautiful, was really cute. It was an emotional movie, and it was designed to bring you up to a couple questions. Not necessarily for you to just take the movie as a love movie or as a flick, that type of thing, but it was, I think, to me, something that was worth exploring a bit more. So Mahershala's character, his name is Cameron. He is an artist, a graphic designer. He does a lot of artistic work, and he's diagnosed with a terminal illness. And he's keeping it to himself. You know, we open with him passing out in the bathroom, and we're not sure what's going on. Long story short, we see him going to a facility where he makes the agreement to clone himself. And he's struggling with it, though. He's not sure if he wants to do it, and he's in and out. Rightfully so. You know, think about this. Here you are about to transfer your consciousness into a clone version of you who would be perfect and have everything, all of your memories. We're talking subconscious things unspoken. We're talking unconscious things, a lot of stuff that has not been shared publicly or shared to anyone that is being passed from or copied over to a clone. And he would not have the illness, and he would live as the original up until death and have a natural life, you know? Some imagery came to mind as I was watching this, as I saw Cameron, Mahershala's character, hide something so impactful from his family. And I thought about the imagery associated with the man who is the sole provider, who takes on everything and who wants to keep his family safe, protected, and in this garden of freedom that he is providing all for. And the responsibility rests immensely on his shoulders. And he's making decisions and things that may be or may not be to his family's knowledge. Just one of the things that popped in my mind as I was watching this. But I have to say, I loved the future technology, the tech in this, the interfacing, the heads-up display, how it showed the screens of the oh my God, like the textures of the heads-up display. I love tech, like, highly. I imagine my life having that highly super smart life in the woods with a highly advanced home. Everything was just super technologically dope. But I'm living somewhere where I can still be surrounded in nature. And that movie was like perfect. I'm like, oh my gosh, even down to the setup of the home, the aesthetic, all of that was just pretty dope. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it was pretty dope to see. I know the movie speaks of love and sacrifice, and that's something that is mentioned a lot in the movie trailers and in the conversations and in the dialogue and all of that. But what I will say is, at the end of the movie, when Cameron decided to allow Jack, who is the clone of Cameron, to live as him, you know, moving forward, is what about the what ifs? You know what I mean? So what I mean by that is the movie played well. And then my mind went to But what if the clone dies? Or what if something happens to Poppy, or something tragic happens to the son or their unborn child? He made that decision to protect his family and to protect his family from grief and to avoid all that stress and that struggle. But life still is lifing. You know what I mean? It was just like, to me, I thought about, if that decision was selfish, was it self-centered? Was it something a bit too arrogant to do, playing in the face of nature like that, Because in my mind, he is a clone. He doesn't have a soul or a spirit. You know what I mean? So the topic of cloning in and of itself is that's a whole other rabbit hole people fall into, and I've fallen into, of course. Then you have all the conspiracy theories and all that stuff around cloning, and celebrities who they say are cloned, and all of that fun stuff. But in all truth, when you clone something, it doesn't possess the soul or spirit as it would if something has been born naturally. So I just began to think, as touching as the story was, and my goodness, how emotional it was, I enjoy the emotional journey of the movie. At the end, I'm still like, something is still off. I mean, you have Cameron, who's making this decision, agreeing to copy over his consciousness, copy over everything about himself to a clone, and being faced with the possibility of losing himself, dying prematurely if the experiment or that process were to fail. What would happen? I mean, this was only done successfully with 3 other people. Cameron would be the 4th one. So it was like all these different possibilities of things happening. And we even had a point where, once the successful transfer took place, the clone, Jack, took a second to wake up, and Doc and the assistant were kind of like, oh my God, did this work? Did it not? There was almost like a panic that started to happen. And then he woke up and he took that sharp, unnatural breath inward and came to life. And from there, it just got really interesting. We had Jack having a monologue and speaking of his metaphorical birth. And we, as the viewers, are building this human connection with the clone, and noticing that the clone is having empathy and compassion for Cameron. It was just an interesting movie, and it was an interesting experience, as the viewer. And I thought it was done pretty well. I thought it was good in bringing the viewers attention to natural and unnatural, with the scene with the dog. There was this constant play and reminders of, even though we're seeing this very human thing play out, there was still an emptiness there. And that's part of the tragedy. And is that in and of itself selfish? Can we allow life to live naturally? And what is this issue with mortality and the fear of loss and grief? I mean, knowing that Poppy lost her twin, and then we have a clone coming in, and to know that your real husband is dying. It was just so many different things. And then you have the son not having his real father. And even though the father was real to him so much, the movie I thought was great. I think you should watch it just to ask yourself some questions and to explore a little bit into that. I know many people will be like, no, I wouldn't do that. Absolutely not. I'm not cloning myself for what? I'd rather just live naturally. But I do wonder, for many people, is that an act of love? Is that a high love? Is that a high sacrifice to give your family an empty version of you, a soulless version of you that has every part of you except their soul? Does that matter? And would you do it? But that's all. If you like what you heard, please feel free to subscribe, like, and share. You can find me on Instagram at The Painted Fool. I'm also on Twitter at Painted Fool Pod. I have a podcast called The Painted Fool Podcast. You can find that literally anywhere. Go on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, and just type in The Painted Fool. You'll find me there. And my website, thepaintedfool.com. If you want to find a list of my podcast episodes, please feel free to listen. But until such time, thanks for checking me out. Peace.